what we know so far is that this organisation is called the Libra Association, and it's chosen Geneva as its headquarters. Now, to put simply, it's an independent, not-for-profit member organisation, and they're actually going to manage the digital currency that we will eventually see on WhatsApp Messenger, for example. Now, we did have a look at the commercial registry in Geneva, and it's based in Quai de Lille in Geneva, which is, quite frankly, in the city centre, not too far away from the main station. And we called the co-working space that's actually based there. They say they've seen no signs of a Libra presence or Libra sign so far, so we still have to wait to see what that will look like. But to your question of why Geneva, now, there are some very obvious Swiss links that some people may not have realised. In fact, David Marcus, who's leading Calibra, he actually grew up in Paris and Geneva. He also studied at the University of Geneva before eventually dropping out to start his own company. But even in their white paper, Libra does point out that Switzerland does have a history of global neutrality and openness to blockchain technology, and that the association strives to be a neutral international institution, hence the choice to be registered there.
And actually you spoke to a lot of people, so let's bring up that quote box that you got. What is the reaction, from Swiss companies and organizations that you spoke to? Because so far there are only 28 international companies and organizations mostly on board. What about the Swiss connection?
Correct. Switzerland is missing from that picture, and I did reach out to a number of companies and organisations, and I have to say at first value, they're really quite positive. They're positive because they think this is really going to put Geneva on the map as a blockchain and crypto hub. Obviously, Geneva is still behind places like Zug or Crypto Valley that we like to talk often about on our program. But yes, they really think that this is going to bolster the image and reputation of Geneva. So that is the good story. Now, I have to tell you about what is still concerning or worrying for these firms. There's obviously questions about Facebook and data privacy, which you brought up in the interview earlier. Now, we did speak to the Crypto Valley Association about this whole skepticism and suspicion, and they say that government regulators and institutions may not be willing to entrust a global currency to a consortium over which they, frankly, have little oversight. Just another point, we've got Crypto Finance here in Zurich. Their main thing is Facebook really going to deliver on its promise? Yes, it's an interesting white paper. Yes, it's a tech giant and they have credibility. But how are they going to navigate the regulatory hurdles?
And of course, that will heat up the competition as well for these local crypto players as well. Now, before we go, we have to ask that, right? How is it going to impact the banking industry, the financial sector here in Switzerland in specific, Olivia?
It's really interesting that you asked that because over the course of our program, obviously we know that Swiss banks have taken a rather cautionary or hesitant tone towards cryptocurrencies and blockchain. Only a handful of banks are still dealing with that kind of service. We don't know how that's going to eventuate later on. But even if we look at the lineup, you said it's quite an amazing lineup of founding partners they've got there. But we have to ask ourselves, where are the financial institutions? Where are the banks in this picture? And I think that one comment that really illustrates that is something that the Bitcoin Association Switzerland told me. And they say, quote, Libra is mostly a wake-up call for the banks. And I think, in fact, it's a very strong statement because it suggests now to banks that they either have to rely or depend on Facebook or they are going to have to start turning to cryptocurrencies. They can no longer sit on the fence anymore.